Seneca once said, "Fidelity purchased with money is overcome by money." But fidelity purchased with love? That can be lost in 1,000 subtle ways before you even realize it's gone. Women don't just wake up one day and decide to cheat or detach from a relationship. It happens gradually, and the signs are always there if you know where to look. When a woman is losing interest or entertaining someone else, her behavior shifts in unmistakable ways. If you ignore these signs, you'll waste time in a relationship that's already dead. If you recognize them early, you can act like a true Stoic without emotion clouding your judgment. Stay until the end of this video, because these 7 signs could save you months or even years of chasing a woman who's already halfway out the door. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you've seen these behaviors firsthand. Let's get into it. Chapter 1: Loss of affection. Physical affection isn't just about sex, it's about emotional connection. It's an expression of love, intimacy, and trust that binds two people together. When a woman is in love and emotionally invested in her partner, she naturally craves closeness. She reaches for your hand while walking, leans into your touch during quiet moments, and kisses you spontaneously, just because. These seemingly small gestures are the foundation of intimacy and a natural reflection of her feelings for you. But when that desire begins to fade, it's never random. It's a significant signal that something inside her has changed, and it's not something to ignore. At first, the change in affection is subtle. You might notice that she's no longer the one to initiate intimacy, something that used to come naturally. Where she once sought out physical connection, now she seems indifferent or distracted. When you try to engage, whether it's a hand on her shoulder or a playful kiss, she pulls back, even if it's just a little. The kisses that were once slow, tender, and full of emotion now become quick, mechanical, and emotionless. There's no warmth behind them, just a mechanical motion. Hugs, too, become less inviting. What used to be an embrace of warmth and comfort now feels obligatory, as though she's simply going through the motions. It's clear that she's withdrawing, and this withdrawal from affection is often the first sign that something deeper is going wrong. This shift in affection can often be interpreted as a sign that one of two things is happening. The first possibility is that she is emotionally checking out of the relationship. This doesn't usually happen overnight. It's a gradual process that builds over time. Emotional disconnection often precedes physical disconnection, and it's possible that she no longer feels the same depth of emotional attachment. If she's no longer drawn to you, physically and emotionally, she may have mentally and emotionally distanced herself long before the affection began to fade. When a woman starts to pull away, it's often because her feelings have shifted, and she no longer feels the desire to express them through touch and intimacy. The second possibility is that she's seeking out or already has found that emotional and physical connection elsewhere. Women, like men, need affection and validation in relationships. If she's no longer receiving that from you, it's not uncommon for her to seek it from someone else. This doesn't necessarily mean she's physically cheating, but she might be emotionally invested in another person. She might be getting attention from someone outside of the relationship, someone who's filling the void that you once did. If she no longer craves your touch, but still seeks affection and emotional validation, it's a powerful sign that her connection to you has been replaced, even if only partially. A man grounded in Stoicism understands that relationships are built on reality, not idealized fantasies or wishful thinking. In Stoicism, self-awareness and the acceptance of reality are key virtues. If you notice a shift in affection, it's essential not to ignore it. Stoicism teaches us to observe, analyze, and understand the situation with clarity rather than getting lost in hope or denial. A woman who used to crave your touch, but now acts indifferent or distant, is giving you a clear signal. She's either lost interest in being close to you emotionally and physically, or she's finding that connection elsewhere. Both options require attention, and both require an honest assessment of the relationship's health. A man who truly understands Stoicism doesn't beg for affection or attempt to force closeness. He doesn't chase what's slipping away or invest energy in something that no longer aligns with reality. Instead, he accepts the situation, no matter how painful, and moves forward with clarity. If she's lost interest in being close to you, it's important not to make excuses or convince yourself that it's just a phase. It's one of the clearest signs that something is wrong. At this point, the most stoic response is to analyze the situation objectively, acknowledge the reality of the shift in affection, and decide what steps are necessary for both your emotional well-being and the future of the relationship. Ignoring the loss of affection or rationalizing it away can only prolong the inevitable. If the affection fades and is never replaced with genuine closeness or understanding, it's a sign that the relationship may no longer be fulfilling its purpose. For both partners to thrive, there needs to be an ongoing emotional investment, and when that investment starts to diminish, it's time to face the reality of the situation. The key is to recognize the signs early, assess the situation with rational clarity, and then make decisions based on what you observe, not on what you wish were true. Chapter 2. Change in communication. Communication is the lifeblood of any relationship. It is the glue that holds two people together, allowing them to share their thoughts, feelings, experiences, and everyday moments. It's how we build trust, resolve conflicts, and create emotional intimacy. But when communication starts to fade or change in a way that feels off, it can be one of the clearest signs that something is wrong. If she used to call, text, and check in with you regularly, but now she barely responds or keeps conversations short and curt, it's not a coincidence. This shift in communication is a serious red flag. Let's be clear, people don't just get busy and forget to text someone they care about. It's a common excuse, but the truth is that we prioritize the people who matter most to us. If she's suddenly distant, it's not because life got overwhelmingly hectic, it's because her emotional investment in the relationship has changed. A woman who's truly invested in you wants to talk to you. She wants to know how your day went, hear about the ups and downs you're experiencing, and share her own thoughts and feelings. The exchange of this type of information fosters emotional connection and keeps the relationship healthy. But if she starts pulling away from these conversations, that's a significant indicator that something has shifted within her, and it's likely not in a positive direction. In relationships, communication is also about the little things, the spontaneous check-ins, the random texts just to say, "I miss you," or "hope you're having a good day." These moments may seem small, but they add up to a much larger picture of emotional availability and investment. If she stopped initiating contact or no longer engages in these types of exchanges, it's a signal that her focus may have moved elsewhere. When someone is emotionally disconnected or losing interest, they don't feel the same need to communicate. It becomes an effort, rather than a desire, to reach out. And this can be the first sign of emotional distance. Things get even worse when she stops telling you about her plans. Early on in a relationship, communication about plans and activities is usually transparent. She might say, "Hey, I'm going out with the girls tonight," or "I'm going to hang with my friends this weekend." This transparency is a sign of mutual respect and trust. It shows that she's comfortable sharing her time with you and that she wants you to feel included in her life. But when that stops, it can be deeply concerning. If she used to tell you when she was going out, where she was going, and who she was with, but now she just disappears for hours without any explanation, it's time to pay attention. This sudden change in behavior often means she's becoming secretive, and secrecy in relationships typically signals a lack of trust or a desire to hide something. When communication becomes scarce, it's not just about the details she's withholding, it's about the emotional disconnect that's developing. If she stops keeping you in the loop about her whereabouts or daily life, it could be because she no longer feels the need to keep you informed. This is especially true if the relationship has been healthy up until that point. A woman who is emotionally invested in her partner will want him to feel included, cared for, and respected. If she's withdrawing from this kind of openness, it's an indication that her priorities have shifted and you may no longer be at the top of her list. The harsh truth that many people avoid acknowledging is that when someone stops communicating openly, it's often a sign that they're getting validation elsewhere. If she's pulling away from you, there's a good chance she's getting emotional or attention-seeking needs met by someone else. Whether it's through flirting, seeking compliments, or even developing a deeper emotional connection with another person, this new source of validation can serve as a substitute for the attention she used to receive from you. She might not even be fully aware that this is happening, but when emotional attention starts to be directed elsewhere, the relationship dynamics inevitably change. This pattern becomes even more concerning when you try to confront her about the shift in communication, and instead of having an open conversation about what's happening, she becomes defensive or dismissive. If you call her out on her lack of communication or ask why she's not keeping you in the loop, and she responds by accusing you of being too needy, overly jealous, or insecure, that's an even bigger red flag. The defensive reaction is a classic form of avoidance, a way for her to deflect attention from her own behavior and put the blame on you. Instead of addressing the real issue, the breakdown in communication, she turns it around and makes you feel like you're in the wrong for having concerns. This is a form of emotional manipulation, and it's incredibly damaging to the trust and emotional safety within the relationship. In healthy relationships, when something feels off, partners should be able to discuss their feelings openly and without fear of judgment or ridicule. But if she's deflecting, shutting down the conversation, or invalidating your feelings, it's clear that the relationship has taken a turn. You're no longer in a space where mutual respect and understanding are prioritized. Instead, the relationship feels one-sided, where your emotional needs and concerns are disregarded. It's important to understand that a woman who truly values and respects you won't cut off communication without a reason. If she's withdrawing, it's crucial to understand why. It might not always be about another person, but it certainly signals emotional detachment. And while relationships go through phases of ups and downs, consistent neglect of communication is a strong indication that something deeper is at play. You deserve to be with someone who values the relationship enough to keep the lines of communication open, honest, and consistent. Chapter 3: Accusing you of cheating. Projection is one of the most powerful psychological mechanisms humans use to avoid facing uncomfortable truths about themselves. It's a defense mechanism that distorts reality, allowing people to project their own feelings, fears, or actions onto others. And when it comes to relationships, this psychological tactic can be especially dangerous. If your woman suddenly starts accusing you of cheating, despite the fact that you've done absolutely nothing wrong, this should not be brushed off as mere paranoia or insecurity. It's a serious red flag, and you need to pay attention to what's really going on beneath the surface. Why is this such a big deal? Because projection is a way of dealing with inner guilt or shame. If she's feeling guilty about something, like cheating on you, whether emotionally or physically, she may start to see betrayal and disloyalty in places where none actually exist. It's as though her own guilt creates a distorted lens through which she perceives everything around her. Suddenly, she starts suspecting you of cheating, even though there's no real evidence or reason to believe it. In her mind, if she's capable of being disloyal, then you must be too. This warped perception can be extremely damaging, as it turns the focus away from her actions and puts the blame squarely on you. Let's break it down further. If she's been secure in the relationship up until now, confident in your trust and commitment, but out of nowhere begins questioning your every move, demanding to know where you've been or who you've been talking to, don't dismiss it as a passing phase. People who accuse others of wrongdoing are often the ones hiding something themselves. It's an unconscious attempt to shift the focus and put you on the defensive. Instead of examining her own behavior and addressing her own emotional or physical infidelity, she diverts attention to you. Now, you're the one who has to prove your loyalty, which deflects from her own questionable actions. This kind of behavior doesn't typically come out of the blue. Often, there are underlying emotional changes in the relationship that signal something isn't quite right. Perhaps she's become distant, withdrawn, or overly protective of her phone and social media accounts. She might be acting in ways that seem secretive or evasive. But instead of acknowledging her own emotional distance or even her infidelity, she accuses you of being the untrustworthy one. This tactic not only serves to shift suspicion away from herself, but it also serves to control the narrative. By questioning your loyalty, she creates an environment where you feel compelled to defend yourself, leaving her free to avoid the difficult conversation about her own actions. The troubling thing about projection in this context is that it can be incredibly subtle. At first, she may accuse you of small things like flirting with someone, talking too much to a coworker, or coming home late from work. These seemingly innocuous accusations may build up over time, creating a sense of doubt and insecurity in you, even if there's no basis for them. The goal is to destabilize your sense of trust and create a situation where you start questioning yourself. But instead of focusing on her accusations, take a step back and ask yourself, why is she projecting these feelings onto me? What is she hiding? When a person feels guilty, they often fear being caught, so they start looking for reasons to justify their own behavior by accusing others of the same thing. This is why the more secure and faithful partner often becomes the target of these false accusations. It's almost as if the act of projecting allows the person to relieve their own guilt without directly confronting it. If she's cheating or emotionally investing in someone else, the best way for her to deal with that internal conflict is by accusing you of doing the same. It's a way for her to neutralize the threat of being exposed by focusing the attention on you. This is where you need to be careful. If she begins accusing you of things like having an affair or being unfaithful, but her accusations don't hold water and are based on unfounded suspicions, it's a classic case of deflection. The focus is on you, and it becomes about your behavior instead of addressing her own. The real issue here isn't your loyalty, it's hers. By questioning your integrity, she avoids confronting her own actions and the emotional turmoil that comes with them. At this point, the best thing you can do is stop defending yourself and start asking the right questions. Instead of just reacting to the accusations, ask her directly, what is really going on here? Why do you feel the need to accuse me of cheating? Her response will often tell you more than you realize. If she becomes defensive, angry, or tries to turn the tables on you, it's a clear indication that she is trying to cover up something deeper. If she insists that your suspicions are just unfounded jealousy or insecurity, it may be time to take a step back and reassess the state of the relationship. But here's the key point: a woman who truly respects you and values the relationship won't accuse you of cheating without cause. She won't make baseless accusations in an attempt to deflect from her own behavior. If these accusations are happening regularly and they don't make sense, it's time to consider that her behavior may not be a reflection of your actions, but a projection of her own guilt and internal conflicts. Pay close attention to what she's trying to hide, because if she's accusing you without reason, there's a good chance that she's deflecting from her own disloyalty. Chapter 4: Thirst Traps on Social Media. Social media is an incredibly powerful tool, and for some, it can be a dangerous one. In the digital age, platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok have revolutionized how people interact and present themselves to the world. For women, social media can be a place for self-expression, sharing moments, and staying connected with friends and family. But it can also be a breeding ground for insecurity, validation seeking, and hidden agendas. If your woman suddenly starts posting revealing photos, engaging in flirty comment sections, or fishing for male attention online, this should raise red flags. Think about it, a woman who is secure in her relationship doesn't need the validation of strangers or the public's approval. She should feel confident in her bond with you, knowing that your attention and affection are what truly matter. If she starts dressing differently, showing more skin, or posting photos and videos that are more revealing than usual, it's time to ask yourself, who is she trying to impress? Is it you, or is it someone else? This behavior isn't always obvious at first. Sometimes it starts small, maybe she begins sharing more selfies than usual, or perhaps she's spending more time on her phone, checking her notifications and engaging with people you've never heard of. As time passes, the behavior escalates. She may start responding to thirsty DMs or leaving flirtatious comments on random men's posts. The once innocent activity now takes on a different tone, and it's no longer just harmless fun. If she's posting more photos of herself in revealing outfits, highlighting her body in ways that draw attention, it could be a subtle sign that she's mentally checking out of your relationship. Now, let's not pretend this doesn't happen in subtle ways, because it does. Women are strategic when it comes to online personas. If she's frequently engaging with new men or responding to attention-seeking messages, it's often not a coincidence. It's a tactic, whether conscious or subconscious, that signals she might be looking for validation elsewhere. She's broadcasting a message that she is available, desirable, and open to the possibility of something beyond your relationship. The comments, likes, and DMs from men become her external affirmation, feeding her ego in ways you may not even be aware of. This behavior could signify emotional distance. The more a woman seeks attention from others, the less connected she might feel to her current partner. And it's not always about physical attraction, it's about emotional needs and unspoken desires. If she feels neglected, underappreciated, or undervalued in her relationship, seeking attention on social media becomes an outlet to fulfill those unmet emotional needs. It's a way for her to feel noticed, important, and wanted when she's not getting that validation from you. The most alarming aspect of this is when you bring it up and her response is to deflect or gaslight you. If she snaps back with something like, "You're just insecure," or if it's not a big deal, it's a sign that she might not be willing to confront her behavior. She's essentially telling you that your concerns don't matter and that your feelings of discomfort are unwarranted. But here's the truth, a woman who truly respects you and values her relationship won't make you feel like you have to compete for her attention. She will prioritize your connection, safeguard the emotional intimacy between you, and understand that her actions, whether online or offline, affect your relationship. When a woman is secure in herself and her relationship, her online activity will reflect that. She won't need to seek attention or validation from strangers. Instead, she'll be confident in who she is and where she stands with you. But when she's engaged in behaviors that undermine your relationship, like posting thirst traps, seeking attention from men, and gaslighting you when you confront her, understand that something is seriously wrong. It's time to evaluate the relationship, have an honest conversation, and figure out whether she's really invested or simply using social media to fulfill needs that are no longer being met in your connection. Chapter 5. Being overly protective of her phone. There was a time when her phone was just a phone. It sat on the table without a second thought. She'd hand it to you to play music in the car. If it rang while she was in another room, she might ask you to check who it was. It wasn't a big deal because there was nothing to hide. But now? Now, it's different. Suddenly, her phone is glued to her hand. It's face down on the table. If she gets a notification, she quickly tilts the screen away or swipes it before you can see. She never leaves it unattended. Bathroom trips. The phone goes with her. A quick run to the kitchen. It's in her pocket. She used to be casual about it, but now it's guarded like a government secret. This isn't about normal privacy. Everyone deserves personal space. Having a passcode on your phone? That's normal. Not wanting your partner to scroll through private messages with friends or family? That's reasonable. But when privacy turns into secrecy, something is off. A drastic shift in behavior isn't just a coincidence. It's a signal that something has changed. Maybe she suddenly starts locking specific apps. Messages that used to be open for anyone to see are now secured behind Face ID or an extra password. Maybe she turns off notifications so no one can see who's texting her. If you ask about it, she laughs it off or acts like you're crazy. I just don't want distractions, she might say. But deep down, you know that's not the full story. Watch how she reacts when you're near her phone. Does she get nervous if you pick it up? Does she snatch it away, even if you're just moving it off the couch? If her phone rings or a message pops up, does she suddenly rush to check it before you can see? These are instinctive behaviors, the kind that people develop when they know they're doing something they shouldn't be. A major red flag? She gets defensive when you ask about it. A woman who has nothing to hide won't act like she's under interrogation when you simply ask, "Why are you suddenly so secretive with your phone?" A normal response would be, "Oh, I just don't like people looking at my messages, or I like keeping my stuff private." But a guilty person? They react emotionally. They get angry. They try to flip the script and accuse you of being insecure or controlling. You don't trust me? Why do you even care? Are you trying to invade my privacy? These are deflection tactics. Instead of calmly reassuring you, she goes on the attack. Why? Because she knows you've noticed something real. A woman who is being faithful has no reason to panic over simple questions. If she truly has nothing to hide, she'll reassure you instead of making you feel like the bad guy. She might even show you her messages just to ease your mind, not because you demand it, but because she values honesty in the relationship. But if she's hiding something, she will fight to keep that phone out of your sight. Another red flag? She changes her habits with technology. Maybe she suddenly switches to apps known for secrecy, like Snapchat, where messages disappear after being read. Maybe she starts muting specific conversations so that notifications don't pop up when you're around. Or worse, she creates a second account on social media, one that you're not supposed to know about. If she used to post pictures with you but suddenly stops, pay attention. If she starts dressing differently in selfies, using more flirty captions, or getting a suspicious number of likes from new guys, that's a sign she's looking for outside validation. A Stoic man doesn't ignore the obvious. He doesn't need to snoop through her phone to confirm his suspicions. Her behavior tells him everything he needs to know. He observes. He recognizes when patterns shift. And most importantly, he doesn't lie to himself. If her phone behavior has changed drastically, if she guards it like her life depends on it, if she gets defensive at simple questions, it's time to stop making excuses. Something isn't right. And when something feels off, it usually is. Chapter 6, Emotionally Checked Out. Sometimes, a relationship doesn't end with an explosion. It ends with a whisper. There's no screaming, no dramatic fights, no big betrayals, just a slow, quiet withdrawal. One day, you wake up and realize the warmth is gone. The laughter that once filled the room has been replaced by silence. The affection that once felt natural now feels forced, or worse, non-existent. She's still there, physically. But emotionally? She's already left. At first, it's easy to ignore. You tell yourself she's just stressed, distracted, or going through something personal. You convince yourself that this is just a phase, that things will get better. But deep down, you know the truth. Something has changed. She doesn't look at you the same way. She doesn't light up when she sees you. She doesn't even seem to care whether you're around or not. This is how relationships die, not with a sudden betrayal, but with slow, painful indifference. You might notice subtle shifts in her behavior. She stops engaging in conversations the way she used to. You ask how her day was, and instead of telling you a story like she always did, she just shrugs and says, "It was fine." She used to share her thoughts, her dreams, her little annoyances with you. Now, she keeps everything to herself. It's not that she doesn't have things to say, she just doesn't feel the need to share them with you anymore. She no longer seeks your opinion on things. A woman who values a man wants his input. She asks for his thoughts on decisions, big or small. But when she's emotionally checked out, your opinion doesn't matter to her anymore. She makes choices without telling you. She books plans without asking if you're free. She stops seeing you as a partner and starts seeing you as just there. One of the biggest red flags? She doesn't care about your life anymore. She used to ask about your goals, your passions, your struggles. She used to listen, truly listen, when you talked about your day. Now, she barely acknowledges you. You could tell her something important, and she'd just nod absently, if she even responds at all. The effort is gone. What's even more painful is that she doesn't get upset anymore. A woman who still cares will argue. She will fight. She will express frustration because she still has emotions invested in the relationship. But when she's emotionally checked out, she doesn't even care enough to get angry. You could say something that used to upset her, and she just shrugs. She used to challenge you, hold you accountable, push you to be better. Now, she lets everything slide, not because she's become more understanding, but because you no longer matter enough to stir emotion in her. This is where most men make the mistake of trying harder. They buy gifts, plan special dates, overextend themselves in an effort to bring back the spark. They think that if they just put in more effort, she'll come back emotionally. But here's the harsh reality: you cannot force someone to care. If she's emotionally checked out, it's not because she needs more attention. It's because in her mind, the relationship is already over. She just hasn't left yet. Maybe she's waiting for a better time. Maybe she's too comfortable to walk away. Maybe she's hoping you'll be the one to end it so she doesn't have to. But whatever the reason, she's already gone. And the biggest mistake you can make? Ignoring the signs. You might convince yourself that if she's still physically there, the relationship isn't over. That as long as she's not cheating, there's hope. But what you need to understand is that a woman doesn't have to physically leave you to be gone. If she's lost interest, if she's stopped caring, if she's emotionally absent, you are already alone in this relationship. A Stoic man understands this. He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He doesn't try to force something that no longer exists. He recognizes when a woman has checked out, and instead of desperately clinging to something that's already dead, he lets go. Because the harsh truth is this: you deserve someone who is present. Someone who wants to be with you. Someone who engages, cares, and contributes to the relationship. If she's emotionally checked out, have the strength to walk away. Chapter 7. She stops respecting you. Respect is the foundation of any strong relationship. Without it, everything else crumbles. Love, attraction, and even shared history mean nothing if respect is lost. When a woman no longer respects you, it doesn't always happen in one dramatic moment. It's often a slow erosion, small behaviors that accumulate over time until one day you realize she no longer sees you as someone worthy of admiration. At first, it's subtle. She starts valuing your time less. She cancels plans last minute, or worse, she doesn't even bother informing you at all. If she used to make an effort to be on time, to consider your schedule, or to check in on you throughout the day, but now treats your time like an afterthought, she's showing you that she no longer prioritizes you. Then, she starts dismissing your feelings. A woman who respects you listens when you speak. She takes your concerns seriously, even if she doesn't always agree. But when respect fades, she stops engaging with you emotionally. If something bothers you and you try to address it, she rolls her eyes, sighs in frustration, or brushes it off like you're overreacting. She might even mock you for expressing emotions, making you feel like your thoughts and concerns don't matter. This isn't just disrespect, it's a power move. She's subtly telling you that your opinions hold no weight. A woman who has lost respect for you starts testing your boundaries, not because she's curious, but because she no longer fears losing you. She pushes the limits of what she can get away with. Maybe she flirts with other men in front of you, knowing it makes you uncomfortable. Maybe she deliberately does things you've said you don't like, just to see if you'll stand up for yourself. And the more you let it slide, the less respect she has for you. One of the biggest signs? She mocks you in front of others. If she used to admire you, but now she puts you down, even in a joking way, pay attention. A woman who respects you will never humiliate you in public. But when she starts making snide comments about your appearance, your intelligence, or your decisions in front of friends or strangers, she's broadcasting to the world that she no longer sees you as a man she looks up to. At this point, a lot of men make a crucial mistake. They think if they just prove their worth by being more patient, more understanding, or trying even harder, she'll start respecting them again. But that's not how it works. Once respect is gone, it rarely comes back. So why does a woman stop respecting a man? Sometimes it's because she's already emotionally checked out of the relationship and she sees you as nothing more than a placeholder. She's waiting for something better to come along, and in the meantime, she no longer feels the need to treat you well. Other times, she's found someone else she respects more. She might not have cheated yet, but in her mind, she's already moved on. The worst thing a man can do is cling to a woman who no longer respects him. The more you tolerate the disrespect, the more she loses attraction. A woman cannot love a man she does not respect. And if you try to beg for that respect back, you'll lose even more of it. A true Stoic recognizes when respect is gone. He does not beg, argue, or try to fix the situation that has already run its course. He simply walks away, not because he is weak, but because he values himself too much to stay where he is no longer respected. When a woman starts showing these signs, she's either cheating, losing interest, or already planning her exit. The worst thing you can do? Ignore it. Stoics never beg, never chase, never cling. They observe, adapt, and act. If you recognize these signs in your relationship, it's time to make a decision. Stay with a woman who's slipping away, or walk away with your dignity intact. If you've ever experienced this, share your story in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.